rising of the gods. That's exactly what we need to do.
So we now, as black gods, could come together and actually help to manifest the works of all of our great ancestors.
The rising of the gods, was very uplifting because, I was linked to brethren who were very progressive in their works.
How to rise into that godly nature and how to really sit in that creative self as a god. Blessed love, family. Welcome forward to the first episode, the first official episode of Rising of the Gods podcast. I am here with the gods. My name is Akeem. The honorables, y'all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Yes, I. My name is Chronixx, and I'm here with my fellow gods, my elder brethren. And we give thanks for being there and presence once more, for the Rising of the Gods podcast.
Yes, thanks.
Love.
Peace. This is your brother Rizza Islam. I'm also here with the other gods, those who possess force and power, good brothers, different parts of the collective connection of our people across the planet who simply striving to do good things, uplift our people, and represent to the best of our ability. So I'm just always honored to be among the brothers.
Jah, Rastafari, we do give thanks for life and a mighty life. We give thanks for all good things around us ascend from Zion above. So we praise Farai for his divine love. Give thanks. I am Right Honorable Priest Kailash, K. Leon's priest of the ancient Melchizedek order. Definitely give thanks as we do know that good man in flesh is God in flesh. And we glorify all goodness in the manifestation of flesh. And give thanks also for all good woman in flesh is goddess in flesh. Give thanks to sitting with the gods. Jah, Rastafari, blessed.
Blessed. Give thanks. It's an honor to be amongst the gods, giving thanks. So today's episode and what we're going to be doing over the next 7 episodes is we're going to be going through 7 principles that we spoke about on each of the 7 nights up in the retreat. And the episode today is going to be about the importance of self-preservation. And in today's day and age, it's one of those topics that, people don't really want to talk about. We want to kind of walk around it and act as if we don't got to preserve ourselves. Act as if they got us, we're all in good hands. But, self-preservation is more important now than ever. So I would love to hear from y'all, what's the importance of self-preservation?
I think I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and start it off on this one. Well, everything in life has a protective factor and a self-preserving factor. Every creature that lives, every atom that exists, there is always a barrier, there's always a protective line of defense. And what is interesting is when we look at what self-preservation truly means, it simply means a guarantee maneuver to push for survival. It is a measurement you put in place. It's things that we put together to make sure that we can move forward in the future. So whether if that is eating healthy, because it has to be a spiritual self-preservation, mental self-preservation, then of course emotional, physical, etc. So we have to preserve ourselves spiritually, as the Honorable Priest was mentioning earlier, when it comes to so much confusion and all the propaganda and all of what is happening all over social media and the internet, etc. Our mind is under attack consistently if we allow it to be. So we have to be able to block that out and preserve our mind so that we can be properly effective in our lives when we're helping people. Because if we're insane, we can't help anyone else. So we have to preserve our thinking, what goes on in our mental environment. Then, of course, the physical side of things, obviously, we have to eat healthy. We have to exercise, do our best to have the proper foods in our diet or in our everyday eating, as we were doing when we were there in St. Lucia. It was very critical that we ate specific foods and even at specific times that feed the cells of the body, because that is the epitome of self-preservation. No one who loves themselves will knowingly attack themselves. Again, no one who loves themselves will knowingly attack themselves. A lot of our people are attacking themselves with what we eat because we really don't know ourselves that well. We don't know proper food, proper cycling of things across, I would say, the seasons and how to eat according to color and according to what feeds what organs at what time. So that's the food side. Then, of course, we have to study martial arts. We have to, look at ways to protect ourselves and to preserve our physical body, our family, our children, etc., and our communities, because anyone that doesn't preserve themselves will be conquered. If you don't preserve your mind, someone will take it over. If you don't preserve your body, disease and viruses will take it over. If you don't preserve your community, someone will come in and take it over. So self-preservation is critical. It is paramount. It is extremely vital, especially if we want to be taken seriously by anyone. No nation that does not look out for its own interests is ever taken seriously. Never. It's a very key role to make sure that we preserve what it is that we have. So I'll just leave it at that. Give thanks, brothers.
Give thanks. No nation who doesn't preserve itself is taken seriously. Mm. Sometimes we wonder why people don't take us seriously, and it just made me think about looking into, like, are we looking out for self first? Because if they don't see us looking out for self, why would they want to look out for us? Why would they take us seriously? We ain't really taking our own self serious. And Priest, you up there in the mountains, Mount Kailash, and you really have, like, say when it came time for when they did the shutdowns, right? You and a whole community was able to be up there on the mountains and, like, literally, like, preserve self, like, within that infrastructure. So, like you really be, like, embodying it and taking it to another level. So what's the importance of self-preservation to you?
Well, we give thanks for life and the mighty life giver again, and we definitely give thanks for this divine opportunity whereby we understand that we are gods. So when you even if we have to even begin to speak of self-preservation, then you ask yourself, what is self? You know. So what is the self that you are preserving? So if you want to preserve some tuna fish, you might can it or you might freeze it. And if you want to preserve some fish, you might salt it up or whatever you might do to preserve it. That means that you are actually keeping it in a state that you could actually utilize down the line in the future. So ourselves as people of African ascendance is even greater than just the physical self. You know, ourself would encompass what we would call, our physical self, but knowing that we are a compilation of experiences of not only of our physical self, but the experiences of our ancestors, the people that were before us, and also the people who are in the present and the people who are supposed to be in the future. So when we talk of self, it's not just in isolation about your individual anatomy, but that whole aspect of knowing that everything that have actually come before, preserving it, all your experiences, all the experiences of the ancestors, preserving it, that it can be utilized in the future. So it's still there, that the present that's there now could actually see it, and yet still those in the future could actually have that opportunity to actually experience it. So self-preservation is just that capacity to know that you are God, and self-love is the first love, and you could only give whatever that you have. You cannot give anything that you don't have. So understanding that whole aspect of what the I actually represents, and then when we preserve it, as Honorable Brother Rizza Islam was saying about the physical and spiritual, emotional, ethereal, astral, God self, when you are able to actually preserve that, that means that you are able to keep yourself, into the future. So our everyday actions, the everything that we actually speak, the everything that we actually do, what we are doing right now for preserving ourselves, even in the mountain, as you said, to preserve ourselves during COVID, we had to be in the mountain 6 years earlier. We had to be planting coconut trees, 3, 4 years earlier. We had to be planting avocado trees years earlier. We had to be sourcing out the water years earlier. The buildings had to be built years earlier, right? So self-preservation means that your actions, are not just in that physical thing of brush your teeth so you don't ruin the cavity, but understanding that we are dealing with that keeping, safeguarding, harnessing that ancient genetic information passed on, that cultural and traditional information that you get from your ancestors, and still having it accessible now and work towards the future. So definitely in the mountain, we were able to actually thrive during that time. That was my best times. Within that whole time, that's some of my very best times. So I give thanks definitely for knowing that self. That's why even initially, before we began our reasoning, it is about self. It's about you investing that energy and time and growing exponentially, that your value is actually felt in whatever space that you actually fit yourself in. So when you preserve yourself, right, that means that you are able to move from one time area to another time zone completely. Just like you would have a packet of dehydrated fruits that might keep you for 10 years, and you're still able to move within that time. So you still remain relevant within times and times and times to come. And your value, the value that you have, can be very impactful and life saving, way down the line than just what it is that you are doing in the present time. So definitely give thanks for rising up the gods, and give thanks for that wonderful concept of just being able to understand what self is, and then being able to preserve it. Yeah, Rastafari. And I say pre-serve. It is just before you serve it. Pre-serve? Pre-serve? Okay, so pre-serve. All right. My Lord. Bless.
Blessed love, family. I pray y'all enjoying the podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by The Answer, Nature's Booster Shop. And this is something that we all need in our pharmacy. And I don't mean no pharmacy like you going to the drugstore. I mean something that a farmer can see. If it ain't coming from the earth, if it ain't growing from Mother Earth, we don't want it. And The Answer has soursop, gully root, blue vervain, and periwinkle in there to help boost up your immune system, help fight against those cells that are trying to intrude. And we talking about self-preservation this episode. How are you preserving the cells that are helping preserve you? Go to richsoulfoods.com and enter ROTG pod for 15% off your order. Much love, y'all. Blessings. What is the importance of self-preservation to you, Honorable?
We give thanks. For me, I feel like a big part of self-preservation is, the beginning steps, which is, understanding self and the value of self. Um, and I feel like that is how you really can carry out the act of self-preservation, by first internalizing the concept of self and the value of self, you know. Um, that's how you come up with your priorities, like how to prioritize your time, and how much time to give to this and how much time to give to our next thing. That is how um, should I um, eat eat this or should I eat that, what I mean? And what time should I, what I mean? And just how you go about setting up your life and your calendar, and how you make plans and the things you aspire to, you know. I feel like them things is all a part of self-preservation, which would make self-preservation more within the definition of a livity, and not necessarily just a one or two thing that you can do, you know. Is really a livity, and it's like preserve and culture. All them word have the similar meaning, to culture and to preserve and to hold something still for a while and to protect it from uh things that you see that is possible for it to fall into, because It's not preservation if you can't see what would happen if you were to say not preserve yourself, and because we can see clearly what will happen if we don't preserve ourselves, and because we can also see clearly the concept of self, which is um, mind, body, and soul primarily, and then we have enough more other components of self, which is the emotional self. You talk about the etheric self, you talk about the intellectual self, and all of them things which they all develop at a different rate, 'cause when a man is 7, his intellect is probably 6 months, you know, and you see a man at 28-year-old, he might have a 19-year-old intellect, and that's just, it's not because him dumb, but it's just that the physical goodie will grow at a faster speed than the intellectual body, or the body that you're able to build up from all the books you read, all the world consciousness that you come into contact with. You know what I mean? So I feel like, and yeah, and the feeling for me is a feeling of truth, as far as one of the biggest things for us now is to understand the self and even the individual self, because, we have our community like a corpse, a literal body of ones who live and move together. And I feel like what make a, 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 a community is good enough and great enough individuals. That is what really form a real strong community. You know, um, if you have a community with one and two um, master individuals, you might find them individuals that burn out fast, as master as they might be, because them end up have to carry thousands of other ones. So when you can have a community and a family where within the unit the individuals are developing, and their well-being is being pursued on a daily basis, that um, that is one that is one way how self-preservation can be realized, through understanding the individual and what makes up the individual, because nowadays we talk about race, and especially when self-preservation will come into different concepts of race and sex and gender and all of them things, when, really and truly, if someone don't know the reason behind the races and how it developed um, through biological order, different from cosmic order, and how mankind end up physically unfold the way it will unfold. Um, you know, those truths are what is really crucial to us understanding ourselves and the different components of ourselves. You know, um, and in understanding gender, understanding the concept of being a human being, and of to be a human male and a human female, and them type of things. And what does that mean? Like, the honorable priest did a talk at the university, and you could tell that big elder people becoming awakened to themselves as physical, biological organisms in male and female um, goodies that we need dated, you have to pursue it on a daily basis. The well-being, like how to deal with your hormones and your genitals and your different your endocrine systems and the different systems. Imagine the different maybe thousands of systems, you know, within each individual. So it's a never ending pursuing, like a daily pursuing of well being, and That is what self-preservation is to me, and it's very important because that is the one way how you can guarantee, a fair try at your purpose, and that you're not going to be one of them ones. And say, oh, it was very good, but he couldn't make it because X, Y, Z. So I feel like self-preservation is giving yourself a fair chance as a human being on the face of the earth to contribute to your community and to your family, and you're giving yourself a fair. Now you can't come say, "Boy, mommy, I was supposed to be a good son, but it never because this happened." So when you preserve yourself, you give yourself a fair shot, you know, to do what you're supposed to do. We give thanks.
Give thanks. That's powerful. Self-preservation, never-ending pursuit of well-being. Mm, that's potent. That's potent. What do y'all think is the biggest distraction, the biggest thing that's in our way from being on that never-ending pursuit of well-being? What are the biggest threats to self-preservation these days? And how do we get through those threats so we can stay focused on the mission?
Peace, peace. I would say lack of knowledge of self, meaning we don't know ourselves, we don't know our people, our history, our culture. We're so, and when I say we, I'm saying it is slowly getting better. We're coming into higher consciousness. We're becoming aware more. We're having conversations. We're starting to learn more from one another. However, collectively, we aren't there just yet. So knowledge of self is one. Another thing is a fear of really an invisible system that is very real, but at the same time, we're afraid to protect ourselves because whenever we stood up, I would say, against an oppressor, what we've been told is that we were always destroyed, we lost, when in reality, there were plenty of times when we won. Plenty, plenty, plenty. And that's just on the base level, when it comes to preserving ourselves in the face of an opposer, in the face of an oppressor, in the face of someone coming at us with the intention to, destroy our power, remove our spirituality, take over our children and our women, conquer us in all these different ways. So there is a level of fear because once we get over that fear, then we're going to have to take responsibility for ourselves and then we won't have anyone to blame. And a lot of our people are very comfortable with just blaming others and not taking any responsibility because taking responsibility means work. We have to work. If I want to point at this company or organization for producing genetically modified foods, then that means I have to go and produce non-genetically modified foods for myself. If I have to point at this pharmaceutical company for producing drugs that affect my body and my people, then I have to now produce herbs and vitamins and minerals and proper foods to eat that will preserve our body and that will protect our body. So it goes hand in hand. We can't criticize what we refuse to replace at times. And that's another part of the fear. We really don't want to, do for self. As the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, he said, do for self or suffer the consequences. So a lack of knowledge, fear, and then I will say, when it comes to the self-preservation, now we're escaping into this multicultural type of description now. All human beings in every culture start with themselves first. They start with their culture first. A Chinese man does not call himself a human being before he calls himself Chinese. He says, I'm Chinese, and as a part of the human family, I'm Chinese, and I'm a part of the human family. The beauty in embracing oneself is that you learn about yourself, but then you also learn the differences in others so that you can learn how to complement each other. But if we abandon our own culture, our people, our identity, just to be accepted by everyone else who does not abandon their own, then we weaken ourselves. So there is a catch 22 on both sides. There's a give and take, that we have to be able to look at it in layers. So a lot of our people are now trying to become less threatening. I don't want any problems. I just, hey, I'm great. I'm cool with everybody. I don't have any enemies. When the reality is, everyone has to have an enemy, whether if it's within self or outside of self. If someone is constantly trying to take something or get something without asking or attacking, etc., the world is a real place, and everyone is not interested in peace in this world. So we have to be honest with ourselves. We can push peace and want to embrace all of humanity, but we also have to prepare for war just in case they're not interested in peace. So it's just different layers, I would say: knowledge of self, fear, and of course, embracing our own people, our own culture, so that when we go and look at other cultures, we can embrace everyone else as well, because we know what it feels like to embrace our own. Give thanks.
That's stuff right.
Bless family, let's take a high grade healing herb break. In this segment, we're gonna be talking about an herb that represents the theme for the episode. Today's herb of the day is seed under the leaf, also known as chanca piedra. Seed under the leaf represents self-preservation by burrowing its seeds deep underneath the soil, protecting it from fire, wind, water, which could otherwise render it impotent. So when all the fire comes and it looks like there's nothing that can grow here, the seeds are underground. So we gotta understand how we can protect ourselves, and looking at the seed under the leaf, that's what it shows us. The seed under the leaf is a very important herb when it comes for breaking kidney stones. They actually call it chanca piedra, which is the stone crusher. It crushes kidney stones and gallbladder stones. It's real important for the liver. It helps strengthen, tonify, balance, and detoxify the liver. It's also a potent antiviral, which is gonna help against various viral infections. And the soft upper parts is used to cleanse the urinary system, which is important for all of us. Give thanks for this high-grade healing herb break. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
I know y'all got something to say,
Yeah,
brothers.
well,
Come
I
on.
was, I was, I was really laughing at that one here because while you are reasoning, I was just going in my heavens of um, the first thing that you said was knowledge. That was the first thing that was in my head. The exact thing was, for the lack of knowledge, the people shall perish. And when you perish, that means that you're not preserved. That means you perishable then. See, how perishable good that you have to preserve it.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, so then I was saying to myself then, but if you have to preserve something, then you have to kill something else. If you have to
Come on.
preserve a piece of fish or something, then you have to kill the bacteria, and you have to kill fungus, and you have to kill microbes that might actually cause them to have a particular type of reaction. So as you say, well, about the enemies, so the enemy of the preservation of something might be some kind of microbes, or some type of, some specific thing within the environment you have to get rid of just to ensure that you are preserved. Whatever it is that you are preserving is actually preserved. And then again, I'm saying then, but look at this then when nothing there is preserved, then because when you take out other things, and then you ensure that you create a particular environment for your preservation. So certain things, just one big good, you can't preserve a herb, by not creating a very specific environment, a very controlled environment. So even to create a medicine, you know, to preserve the constituents of the medicine, the herbs have to be placed in a particular type of environment to ensure that whatever goodness in it is actually preserved. So yes, honorable. I mean, the knowledge of knowing how to do it is very important, and also being aware that that environment has to be created, and also being aware that there are things that would have to be destroyed, removed, right, just so that you could actually be preserved. You know, so just having it logically like that in a manner that is very explicit, and it might even be um, a bit crude, just to think that you have to kill something just for something else to survive, or you have to take out something just for something else to survive. It makes you feel like, well, it's something cool, but that is just the basic truth, and coming into that extension of knowing that destruction of things is not just of persons, but it's philosophies, conceptions, because 99% of whatever your reality is your perception. So if it is that you study astronomy or astrology, right? You study astrology, the science, right? And then I study biology. When I look up in the sky and when you look up in the sky, we see completely two different things, based upon your knowledge base and my knowledge base. So it is essential that even that aspect of our knowledge and being able to understand the conditions that we have to actually create. So our difficulties is the conditions that we have, you know. So what we've been taught, educated to actually to be suicidal, So people are suicidal, so they do everything that they do is things that they know that'll kill them. So we've been educated not to see God in ourselves. We've been educated to see, well, we have to pray to a God to get something. We have been educated to die to actually go and meet God. So then there is not even that kind of logic of even wanting to preserve yourself, because you that when you die you'll go to heaven. You meet God there, and you and God go sit down and talk, and you'll drink milk and honey, and and walk on streets of gold. So in your mind, you don't care about dying now, because you could die now because you want to go and meet God already. So you don't even want to preserve yourself because of that knowledge that we had of not being able to see God in flesh. You understand? So it comes with the de-education, right? Removing that falsified, that fictitious kind of mythos, away from our people, and teach them that, yeah, God is in flesh. Your brethren is God. So when your brethren speak to you, listen. So you understand, well, look, whatever that you are, you don't have to die to get money. So you have to preserve yourself, and then also you have to be able to work towards creating these conditions, because faith without works is definitely dead. So whatever you believe in, you must have that physical manifestation. Knowledge not being applied is nothing. It's like rubbish. So at the end of the day, let us apply it and understand that knowledge, and also be very critical in creating an environment that's going to be something that's going to make us blossom and bloom and yield fruit, and that definitely we could be preserved. So our difficulties, really, we don't really have difficulties. All our difficulties are basically perceived difficulties. So there are plenty of solutions. So the polarity, the opposite end of a difficulty is a solution. So because of that education, as I said, so you focusing on the difficulty, but then there's all these solutions that if you just turn your head and that, wow, you have seen so many solutions, then you just check, well, as King Emmanuel Charles Edwards say, we've been free long time, we've been victorious, we win out already long time, all we have to do is just live good among ourselves. Yeah? Rastafari. That's it.
As far as the challenges, that we are faced with when it comes to self-preservation, I feel like a lot of them are evolutionary, and the gift of doing anything from the self and through the own will, the will of the self, it's gonna be challenging in this time because throughout the course of human development, we go through many different stages. We've been through the stages of the great prophets and the great priests, and now um, evolution has made it possible for every man to realize a priest in himself and a God in himself, and and a prophet and a father and one time them thing was designated through lineage and and great orientation and nobility and and them type of things. So I feel like as much as we've been proceeding towards where we are now as humanity, there is also the fact that we came through Egypt, and Kush and Atlantis and Lemuria and all of them different things according to science and spiritual studies. We find say mankind are forward from far, So where we then now we just know I really turn that corner for say oh the things out of the will, of the self. And preserving yourself is one such thing where imagine if the Almighty really used to preserve the whole entire thing. Now the Almighty has gifted us Himself, or itself, whatever your concept is, that the Almighty forward now within man, to make man within each individual man is like a dwelling place. So, and that, like the minute you can accept that truth, you start flex different in every way, because so I feel like that realization is the number one challenge that we have, because even as I, we're there casually looking at each other, and we can see from how we live that the honorable priest is the Almighty reveal Himself, and to do a specific thing, you know, and so we can comfortably and almost culturally look at each other and say, Honorable God, you know. But when you look out in the general world, a man might laugh at you for because him can't even conceive within himself that God is within him, and it, for us it might seem simple, but for others is really they can't, and a man can't fake him consciousness. You get me? A man can bluff all he want, but he can only conceive what he can conceive, and I feel like as it relates to self-preservation, ones like Marcus Garvey, real pioneer, you know, ones like all the ones that move forward and who we see, and in as much as we take it for granted, there weren't a lot of people like him when he was within the face of the earth, you know. And it's the same thing in our generation, even though there's much more of us, like Honorable Prophet Marcus, um, the Messiah. Now you find that even now you still, the ratio between ones who still need to come to this realization and ones like I and I is still, it's still coming up, So a big part of it for us is works, and just for ensure say for coming generations, youths can see certain things. So yeah, man, give thanks.
Our purpose is to revolutionize the healthcare system. The answer is the answer to the questions that people normally ask, and it's in the form of a tincture. So what the answer was, the answer specifically was a product I created because I wanted to help one particular man who was just suffering from high blood pressure, diabetes, and all these different type of things. Over the years, the uses of the answer has just been phenomenal. So from inside and outside. Our purpose have been to actually bring forth that ancient knowledge and merge it together with the present scientific knowledge that people could have a clearer understanding of exactly what path they have to take when it comes to healing. In the other realms, I could feel satisfied that I actually played my part and provide people with the core level of knowledge and intelligentsia on the herbs and healing that they could make positive decisions into naturally eradicating their diseases.
Just before I come in there, it is just like as I say, some people go see it difficult to see God in themselves. That now remember that you have good man is God in flesh. and you have evil men is Satan in flesh. You understand? So the same way that you see a goodness, so the other the polarity is always there.
Mm-hmm.
So man would seem to have as Satan in flesh, as that manifestation of evil, that and then his purpose and his desire, would be just like your purpose and your desire is to preserve yourself, and probably preserve whatever else, they have somebody and the desire, right, is deliberately, to actually decompose, to destroy.
Mm.
Well, I feel like it's up to the good ones them now for almost use them other ones because you have good, you have evil, and then God is in the middle almost, directing the two of them, because remember we say to preserve some things you have to kill out certain things. So meanwhile, you have ones who fixated on because here's my philosophy with culture and preservation. To culture something, you have to almost stagnate it, you know. And to the man who are carry out the culture and to the man who are carry out the fermenting process, he is aware of that one day, while this thing got through a spiritual thing and moving from being a starch to being a spirit, or moving from being a plant fiber and to becoming like a spirit, fermented, cultured type of element. The man who are carry out the culture is aware, but the things that are being cultured are unaware of the fact that one day we are gonna open the barrel and the answer are ready. And them things are not, so we is like the Guinean mixing with the alcohol, mixing with everything, and the Almighty I mix with and I use one for extract something out of the other one. And the same way when we reach to the level now where we doing the culture, we can't be thinking like a Guinean or like a barley alcohol. We have to learn how to mix the two of them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and know say, all right, if I have someone who is good at extracting out something versus someone who is good at giving up itself to extraction, those two can work well together. You know? It's just like the man them say police and thief work good together. So then put them, society have a way of them. And then the man them who orchestrate the armies and the police and the nurses and the doctor almost set up the society for conflict within itself so that you can have drama and a pulling factor for people to stay in because if someone get a little drama, them don't really stay, you know. So we have to understand that we are writers of the story. We are not really people playing out the drama of life, because when you realize self, you understand that you weren't sent into the earth to get caught up in the drama. You're in the earth to experience drama and for create drama and for for dramatize life to your own fulfillment and your own self-preservation. Is not to get caught up in the fact that, oh, I am a this or I am a that. You know, like we have to know, say, all right, we have to gather up all the ones them and make them preserve themselves and teach them how to preserve themselves. By mixing them up and put them one with them one to learn from each other and all of them things, because as the honorable priest say, have some evil men, but is really the creator who create them same way,
Mm-hmm.
and even each one of them also endowed with the ability to rise to, that is how the creator make sure so everyone get a fair shot. So um So it is not really up to we for really um cast cast anything out um unnecessarily. But we have to use things to cast things out to other things, and you know what I mean? And so we give thanks for the awakening and just for the humility as well to know that um, we are the shapers and the writers and the culturers, Like I hear people said, I am the culture. Well, I'm not the culture, I'm the culturer. Like the one who set the culture and decide when culture need for change and cause culture, if you under the stronghold of culture, you will be stagnant, for your whole lifetime, not knowing say a bigger man upstairs have you in a culture, for your whole lifetime. And I see that happening even when you travel to countries like London and England and America, you find black people or them call themselves black people and them stay one place, and say, oh, I don't go over there. It's the white people and go over there. And say, oh, I don't eat in them restaurants. That's the white people restaurant. And oh, we don't watch them channel. That's the white people channel. Says that they have been cultured to not leave a certain circle and a certain box. And so as culture, you have to be careful not to get caught up in your own culture where you're supposed to be, um, where you supposed to mold, So um, even with the same thing like being a Jamaican, I have enough brethren who caught up in the culture of being Jamaican so much that him can't even fully deal with Rasta or fully deal with nothing else because in a Jamaican, him have to eat him saltfish and him have to eat him jerk pork because that's a part of being Jamaican, and me have to drink him red stripe beer, so as a culture, can know say, well, I one can eat him jerk chicken, but as the culture, I don't have to partake, I go on in the culture at all, you know. So give thanks.
Give thanks, y'all. So that was real potent. Give thanks to the gods. Much love, y'all. It's always an honor to be here. Looking forward to the next episode. Um, Anyone want to send them off with some words?
Big brother Rizza.
No, I was gonna say, I think, brothers. But, I was gonna say that the honorable priest, man. I think I'll pass it to my brother. I mean, everything that was said was so powerful, so potent, as brother honorable, uh, brother Prophet Jamar, brother Chronixx said. Man, he said nothing else needs to be said.
Straight up
I think
powerful.
now we just need to study and apply everything that we've heard. It's time to work.
It's
Give
time to
thanks, man.
work.
And
Bless
just to
y'all.
add a little value, you know, um, as you said, well, even the bacteria, you use the bacteria to ferment. So anaerobic respiration, where they utilize the sugars to actually create the alcohol that preserve whatever you have to preserve, So definitely give thanks for the cultural manifestation, which is still God itself, like God, the creator, So man indeed is God. Give thanks for the divine opportunity. Give thanks for being in the company of the I and M as gods, and all prosperity and blessings and peace divine, as we go on our ways, and all peace and prosperity to all the people who actually feel and hear the vibration, as definitely is rising of the gods, so the word supposed to manifest and come into flesh and dwell among I and I. Jah Rastafari. Perfect.